Am I an idiot for deactivating my niece's social media when she refused to listen to me? I have custody of my sister's daughter, a 13-year-old. She became old enough for social media a few months ago and I let her create profiles on her birthday. I said the condition was that she make her accounts private and only accept friend requests from people she knows. She showed me her accounts, which were set to private, so I believed her. I also followed her, so I could see what she was posting, which she agreed to. A couple weeks ago I decided to check her profile, as I hadn't seen one of her posts in a while, despite her being on there all the time. It's public, not private, so she changed her settings, and I'm no longer following her. I'm assuming I was soft blocked as I can still see her profile. However, the part that concerned me most was her bio. She has her full date of birth, full name, town name, ethnicity, other info about her, and photos of her and her friends in their school uniforms, with the school crest visible. I told her why this was a problem, but she responded that it wasn't a problem. I told her she has two options: take an internet safety course or deactivate all her profiles. She chose the first option. I paid for a short course, an estimated 4 hours to complete. It took a couple days, at which point she told me she'd taken the course and passed with flying colors, even showing me the certificate that said she passed. I gave it a day, checked her profile, and it was exactly the same, except I was blocked and had to go on incognito to check it. I also checked the course website and it said that you, as in the user, spent 17 minutes on the course. That was the last straw, so I told her to deactivate everything, and I put software on the PC, which I've used to block social media. I can't do much about apps on her phone, but it's something. She's told my mother what I've done, and Mom is outraged. Says I had no right to take away her social media, that I should reinstate it, and apologize for being paranoid and controlling and let her make her own choices about her personal safety. I've said she's 13 with no concept of internet safety. She can have social media back when she understands how any aspect of online safety works. My mother feels this is unreasonable and that I have moved the goalposts as she completed the course like I asked. But there's no way she completed a 4-hour course in less than 20 minutes. Mom says she's 13, not a little kid, and I need to trust that she knows what she's doing. I said she has to earn that trust first, and Mom again accused me of moving the goalposts, and said her completing the course should have earned that trust. Am I an idiot for not letting her have social media? Edit. To be clear, this is more about my conflict with my mother and her accusations of me being controlling. I don't expect anyone to call a 13-year-old in a hole. Also, to clarify a few things, I'm a woman. My niece's mother is my older sister. My sister and my niece's father are both uninvolved in her life, which is why I have sole custody and have legally adopted her. The mother I mentioned above is my mother, who is also my niece's grandmother. Update: it's been a few days. I read through every comment on my original post and saw all your feedback, particularly the parts about my niece being unlikely to trust me after this. I sat my niece down one final time. I talked to her again about all the information she wanted to add, trying to explain again why it was a bad idea to put her full name, her date of birth, location, and whatever else online. She still didn't believe that it could be dangerous, so I asked her what information she wanted to put exactly. She told me. I googled it. The entire first page of results was all about her, or my sister, her mother, or me. It showed her school website, as she's been mentioned in the newsletter. Her full name also brought up her personal phone number and a website for details of the adoption. I then showed her what was linked with my name, despite my very careful social media presence. The results included a background check website that listed all my former names, my number, my address, where we currently live, and more behind a paywall. She now completely understands what I was trying to tell her. We worked out a new deal. She's allowed social media, but instead of all the information she wanted to add, she's only allowed her star sign and that she's a minor. She can give a location, but it has to be our county, not our town. Her profile will be private and she can only link up with people she knows IRL. I will follow her from a fake account, so her friends don't see her aunt on her friend lists. These restrictions will lessen in due time. If she does anything to screw it up, it all gets deactivated again, and we won't even revisit the topic of social media until she's 15. As for my mother, I called her and told her to back off. I said that I have custody of my niece, so I make the decisions, and Mom doesn't get to make that harder for me. That if she really thought my niece putting her full name, date of birth, location, etc. online was safe, she's an idiot. And it pisses me off that the only times I hear from her, it's so she can tell me that I'm doing something wrong, when she herself was given the chance to adopt my niece and refused. Mom essentially said that she can't believe I'd treat her like this and I shouldn't expect to hear from her for a while. Not an idiot. You can never be too careful online. There's some dangerous people out there these days. Any shred of information in the wrong hands could lead a bad person right to your door. As a teen I would resent all the control you put on her online life, but now as an adult I know how essential it is. Not an idiot. This is a good update. My school used to use this tactic. The 13-year-olds would have an assembly each year where the teacher used to show us on the big screen what came up when our names were Googled. I think making it visual rather than just saying scary things is definitely the best approach, and I'm glad you and your niece are back on the same page. Do you think the aunt was out of line? Let me know in the comments. Now, you won't want to miss this next story. Am I an idiot for checking my blood sugar at my desk when my coworker has a severe blood phobia? I, male 24, enjoy my job and have two coworkers, Megan, female 25, and our new coworker James, male 23, who just started. The three of us each have our own office space, but because we have to frequently collaborate on work throughout the day, we are often at each other's desks. I am a type 1 diabetic. I give insulin and check my blood sugar throughout the day as needed. I give insulin through a pump, so that's not an issue. Checking my blood sugar involves pricking my finger to draw a drop of blood. The blood gets sucked up into a test strip that is connected to a glucose meter, and the meter displays the reading. The whole process takes like 10 seconds. I was checking my blood sugar in my office right when James walked over. Immediately, his face went white. He looked like he was about to puke or faint or maybe both. I was like, dude, are you okay? He told me that he has a major blood and needle phobia and gets therapy for it. I explained what I was doing and why it was necessary, and he said it's freaky that I have to make myself bleed multiple times a day. He told me he never wants to accidentally walk in on me checking my blood sugar again because he could pass out. I said that if I'm checking my blood sugar and hear him coming over, I can call out a warning like give me a sec. He said that won't work. Just knowing that I'm doing that just before he comes over is enough to freak him out, and that he would be stressed that I might not hear him walking over. He told me I should check it in the bathroom from now on. I told him that I don't think I should have to do that and it's unsanitary. He said another option was if I only check my blood sugar at certain times, say 9 a.m., 12 p.m. before eating lunch, and 4 p.m., that way he'd know when to avoid me. I said these things can't always be predicted. I'll need to check if I feel my blood sugar going high or low. He said he understands that I have diabetes, but that he also has a special need, his blood phobia, that needs to be accommodated, and that he doesn't want to have to avoid me at work and only talk to Megan for fear he might see me checking again. He said he'll talk to HR about this and that he'll tell them that I refuse to compromise with him. That was last Thursday before the holidays. Tomorrow I'm thinking of going to talk to HR before James does, but first I need to know that I'm in the right here. So am I the idiot for not being more accommodating of James' blood, needle phobia, and checking my blood sugar as needed at my desk? Edit. To clarify something, James cannot see me test my blood sugar unless he is literally standing in my doorway. It's not a communal style workplace. I do not test in common areas, only in my office. Update. I'm really glad I posted. It gave me the reassurance I needed that I was doing the right thing going to HR. I took your guys' advice on how to approach the conversation with HR. I said that me and my coworker have conflicting medical needs and I could use advice on a solution that would work for both of us. The HR lady said that I have every right to continue to test my blood sugar in my office. When I told her that James suggested I test only at specific times of the day, her eyes got really big and she was like, no. Do not test your blood sugar on a schedule suggested to you by your coworker, only your doctor. Later HR spoke to James as well. Here's what we agreed to with HR. James is to call me on the phone before coming to my office. As in, hey, can I come ask a question? And I say sure and ensure I'm not checking my blood sugar at that moment. I cannot test my blood sugar in front of James. I wasn't doing this anyway. If James' phobia symptoms are triggered for whatever reason, he is entitled to a 10-minute break to let his symptoms subside, in addition to the normal breaks we all get. This system worked great for a week. One day he called as usual. I said sure, come over, but then he did and come over. After about 10 minutes I actually needed to check my blood sugar, but thought with my luck he'd walk in at the exact moment I was testing. I ended up calling him back and he said that he got distracted and forgot he had a question for me. A few days later it happened again, and I was a bit annoyed that twice I delayed testing because I thought he was going to be entering my office at any second. Soon after I found out that James had put in his 2-week notice. He explained that me being diabetic wasn't the only reason why he was quitting. He wanted different hours, etc., but that it did play a role. Later, Megan, our other coworker, told me that James told her that he really struggled with me being diabetic. For example, even just thinking, I need to ask a question, but I have to call first to make sure he's not checking his blood sugar was distressing to him because then he'd be thinking about it, which would make him feel queasy and anxious. James has quit now. While I'm relieved that I don't have to feel like a leper at work anymore, I mostly just feel bad for James. It must be awful living with a phobia that's severe, and I know he didn't choose to be that way. I hope he continues to see his therapist and can improve. So I guess this doesn't have a happy ending because ultimately we couldn't work it out and he quit. Not an idiot. Well, I'm glad that HR were so understanding of both sides and actually attempted to solve it for both of you. I'm sad to hear that he quit because of this, but maybe it's for the better. I hope he can get the help he needs to overcome this phobia, especially since it seems so severe that he couldn't work in the same place as someone who is diabetic. Not an idiot. I'm not one to downplay a phobia, but honestly, it seems like James was either expecting them to go further to accommodate him or is looking for a payout. I think this because if he needs to call you in order to make sure the coast is clear, then he should be in the process of actually going to see you. And what exactly does he need to ask that he couldn't have asked over the phone? Do you feel bad for James? Let me know in the comments. Now, am I an idiot for not explicitly telling my grandpa I'm married to another woman? My wife and I are both women in our late 22s. We've been together for 4 years and got married this summer after getting engaged in the spring. Due to restrictions and personal preference, we did a courthouse wedding with each of our sisters as our maids of honor. It was a relatively simple affair and my wife and I are pleased with how low-key it was. Before we got married, I was not out to my extended family members. I was very close with my grandma and was afraid of how she might react. Sadly, she passed away shortly before our wedding, so she never got to know that my wife was more than a friend. I'm not very close to my grandpa, but I do try to call him once a week to chit-chat. He's very reserved and soft-spoken, so our convos are typically 5 minutes of fluff about work and the weather. I had introduced my wife to my grandparents. They met her a few times before my grandma passed away. They only knew her as my roommate, friend, as I wasn't out at the time. But I would tell my grandma about fun things we did together, and honestly I think she might have known that we were a couple. In retrospect, Grandpa probably didn't pick up on it because I'm not nearly as close to him as I was with her, so when we visited he would say hi and chat with us for a little bit before going into his workshop while we stayed with my grandma in the house. After the wedding, I decided I couldn't hide who I was any longer and posted our wedding pics to social media, saying that we had gotten married and I was happy to spend the rest of my life with the woman I loved. Many of my extended family reached out to congratulate us and the overall response was very positive. For Christmas, we sent out Christmas cards to all of my relatives with our engagement and wedding. Fast forward to last week. My parents, siblings, wife and I stopped by to visit my grandpa and exchange presents, with masks on. When we got to his house I said, "Grandpa, you remember wife's name?" And he said hi and asked about her parents, and that was that. Everyone was sitting in a circle around the living room, sitting next to my wife on the couch with my arm on the back of the couch around her while we went around and everyone opened presents. I got a cookbook that my grandma had picked out for me before she passed and I started to tear up. My wife held my hand for a while to comfort me. The next day my mom reached out saying that my grandpa didn't know that my wife and I were together until he saw me hanging all over my wife. I'm sure these are my mom's words. I told her that I genuinely thought he knew, and that if someone hadn't talked to him about it after we posted it on social media he would have realized from the Christmas cards, which featured a close-up of the rings. He had asked my mom about it after the party and she had to tell him. She says it should have been from me. My mom told me it was my responsibility to tell him and that he shouldn't have found out that way. Am I an idiot for not specifically telling my grandpa I'm married to a woman? My mom said it isn't the end of the world, but I can tell she's kind of upset. My wife said that she didn't think any PDA we did have was not over the top and nothing my siblings wouldn't do with their SOs, who weren't present. And a friend said that it's not on me to make sure everyone knows about my marriage. Update. I just want to thank everyone who commented. I read through them all and it really helped me process the situation. I spoke with my mom a few hours the night after I posted, and she apologized for her comment about my wife and I hanging all over each other. I apologized for putting her in the situation she was in and that I genuinely thought that he had known. She basically said that it was okay, he knows now, and not to worry. She had talked to him and told him that we were together but didn't tell him we were married, which she said needed to come from me. I agreed. I said I was going to give him some time to process and reflect on things, and that I didn't want to reach out too soon before he was ready. I waited a week to talk to him, and that time an aunt of mine said she spoke with him. They spoke for a while and his general sentiment was that he was worried that we could lead happy lives together, i.e., could we find a home? Could we have kids? Would we be able to keep our jobs? She said they had a really good talk and that she was able to reassure him of his worries. She told me I should talk to him and give him a chance to see how happy we are. This weekend I went to visit him. My aunt and mom came too. After we chatted for a while I told my grandpa that I had some news. I told him that my wife and I had actually gotten married this summer. I made it clear that it was a very small ceremony and that our parents couldn't even attend. And because of that we are planning on having a big wedding celebration in a year or two after COVID is over so all of our family and friends could celebrate. I explained that I was just nervous to tell him and that I was worried what he would think. He said, "Well, I'm 85. My opinion doesn't matter." We talked a little bit more. I made sure to mention that we were very happy and that our jobs knew and our neighbors knew when we bought our house. I also mentioned that my wife's parents went to the same college my parents and all my mom's siblings went to, and he thought that was pretty cool. I told him that I didn't have a chance to tell Grandma before she passed, and that I really miss her and had hoped she could see how happy we were together. We all had a little cry and talked about how much we miss her. The next morning, a different aunt called me and said that when she went and visited Grandpa he was all excited. "Did you hear we're going to have a big party after COVID? Opus is having a wedding celebration." She and I had a good talk and it sounds like Grandpa is doing well with the news and that everything worked out okay. No idiots here. I'm so glad everything turned out okay. I'm also very sorry about your grandmother. I was pretty much in the same situation where my grandmother passed before I could tell her my husband and I married. At her funeral, my aunt, who had been taking care of my grandmother, said that she asked and talked about me all the time and that she was glad I was living with someone I loved. Since she thought we weren't married, she said we were so modern, which makes me laugh whenever I think about it. Even if your grandmother didn't know you were a couple, I'm sure she was happy for you anyway to be spending so much time with someone you love, even if she thought you were only friends. Would I be an idiot for reporting a coworker for force-feeding me? I, male 24, am a small man, 5'4" and 103 pounds as of my last physical. I am well aware I'm at an unhealthy weight. My entire life I've been small mostly due to illnesses and myriad allergies, and it's admittedly a sore spot. I am working with my doctor to gain weight while still fitting in with my dietary restrictions. No meat, dairy, gluten, or nuts. And honestly, I'm so much better than I was several months ago and proud of myself for the progress I've made. A coworker, Peg, female 30, got pregnant and recently returned to work late November. She's been increasingly overt and uncomfortable in her concern for me. Peg made and brought in cupcakes for her return, and when I thanked her for thinking of us but refused, citing my gluten allergy, she was visibly upset. She didn't shout or complain much, just sighed heavily and said that she would put this one in the break room with the rest. I felt awful. Then, she brought me a steak sandwich the next day, on gluten-free bread. Again I thanked her, but I had brought in my own lunch and needed to focus on that. Peg told me it was in the fridge for when I finished. Ended up bringing it home so she wouldn't feel bad and gave it to my BF. Next day, she approached again. I refused again. She insisted. By now we weren't alone in the break room. She joked that it was rude to refuse a home-cooked meal in favor of that, my lunch. At that point I just took it and thanked her. BF ended up eating it. Then she just started leaving bagged snacks on my desk. She would approach with a snack or a portion of whatever she made for dinner the night before, and not leave me be until I had taken it. I went to our boss and explained that I felt uncomfortable and was told that she was probably feeling maternal and it would negatively impact morale to discourage her. So, I've been taking notes since then. What days Peg has given what, when, who witnessed it, etc. From 12/8 to now she's done it 23 times. Yesterday I took Peg aside and explained that while I was touched, I would appreciate it if she wouldn't bring in anything else. She said that I should have said something sooner. She was only trying to help. Have I seen myself in a mirror? Does your boyfriend like you starving yourself? Among other phrases. Livid. I told her that maybe I didn't feel like sharing my personal medical history with her just so that my wishes were respected. For God's sake, we work with a hospital. Don't you know anything about HIPAA? We parted from there, me childishly storming off and her in tears. Have I already been a huge ass and would a report to HR just be the icing on the cake? Edit. To address a few commonly raised points. I said no thank you, repeatedly, to her face when she gave the food. She in turn would refuse to leave my desk or to stop talking to me, in the break room or halls, until I took it. She returned to work late November, before Thanksgiving, and started this behavior almost immediately. I waited until 12/8 to speak with our boss, who is a woman, if that matters, and only then started counting the incidents. She is also no longer pregnant. Rather, I should have said that she returned from maternity leave. I went to HR, saying that the matter was settled, but I wanted it documented. Subsequently was told that there would be an investigation and the incidents would be corroborated with witnesses, because as is the full record I claim is severe enough to warrant potential action for Peg and several other coworkers who also engaged in her behavior. HR started the process, apparently immediately, because I walked in yesterday to a shitstorm. This plunged the department into civil war. Many agree Peg was out of line. Some told me I should have kept the status quo. Some said I was ungrateful and entitled. One said I should have handled this maturely and who could blame her when I look like that, and I should be ashamed of myself. Another coworker suggested I work from home. Another told me he was sorry for not stepping in. I went to get my lunch out of the fridge only to find someone had disposed of it and left behind the empty Tupperware. Nearly everyone has an opinion. The people in my corner have advised me to keep my head down and to take care. My boss held a meeting, first with Peg and me, then a second with just me. During the one with Peg, I was told to apologize for my part and Peg likewise. I'm sorry if I made you uncomfortable by caring about your health. My boss asked if I was satisfied now. I brought up Peg's comments and my boss said I invited them. No one would call that harassment, and I need to work on myself. Together we went through each of the 23 events. She excused each of them until I was left to feel like I'd been harassing Peg. The next meeting was even worse. Effectively, the boss said, I told you not to retaliate and instead you searched Peg out to harass her, and your actions have expressed a worrying lack of cooperation with me and your team. She was also disappointed that instead of explaining that I needed her to resolve things, I escalated the situation well beyond the point of reason and was cruel to someone who only wanted to help. She said I won't get far in life and I'm not likely to get anywhere vocationally if I can't be a team player and actively sabotage a happy workplace. She hoped I will learn from this teachable moment how to behave in a collaborative environment, as it's inappropriate to involve HR for small misunderstandings. BF is spitting mad. I'm just tired, confused and hurt. HR seems sympathetic. Boss is very clearly on Peg's side. The office is split in tents. Currently updating my resume and job searching. It really does feel like a nightmare. Haven't felt good going into work for a while, and this just made it times worse. Not an idiot. Your boss is retaliating, which is illegal and is actively creating a hostile workplace. Please report her to HR ASAP. I would bet money the meetings she called with you weren't sanctioned by HR. Your boss's job is to keep a smoothly run department, and instead she's taking sides and making your work life hell. You're an idiot. She is only looking out for you with good intentions and you are spitting in her face. Plus she just had a baby, so on top of caring for a newborn, she is trying to feed you. She basically has 2 babies because that's what you are being. A big baby. Grow up. Not an idiot. I am a manager at a company and I have received extensive training on what harassment is and how to handle it, and your boss has literally done everything you are not supposed to do. Report your boss in the way, then handle this to your HR department, because now your boss is creating a hostile work environment. I would also be updating my resume, because who would want to work in such a backwards company with such horrible company culture? Do you think Peggy crossed the line? Let me know in the comments. Now, would I be an idiot for sending my neighbor a cease and desist letter? Last fall we moved into a new house and less than 2 weeks later, had a baby. We were pretty focused on the whole parenting thing and failed to notice how often the neighbor on one side was using our property for several things without any kind of permission or discussion. It started with his kids spending their days in our driveway drawing with sidewalk chalk. We had to ask them to stop because we seriously feared running them over when backing out of the garage, as they have absolutely no supervision or regard for cars. They stopped drawing and started using our garage door as a bumper stop while riding their scooters and bikes. They physically bashed into the garage door and dented it. I asked them to stop. After a dozen or so instances, they finally stopped. In the spring, we noticed that the dad was parking his trailer on our side of the property between our 2 driveways. The property line is very clear with fences and different types of landscaping. In addition, he was pulling his garbage cans through our gravel and making huge tracks. As we're in the middle of a pandemic and we have a baby, we decided to write a note and leave it with our information while also lining the property line with large rocks. Never heard from them, but they had moved the rocks into a pile in the front of our side of the property. We moved the rocks back again and thought we had made our position very clear. At the beginning of June, the husband came and rang our door. He proceeded to tell us that because he's parked his trailer like that since he moved in and no one has cared before, so we can't care either. At no point did he ask if he could park on our side or use our property. He said it's never been a problem and I should be able to do it. We politely said we did not give him permission to do so and explained that we intended to landscape the area, and his trailer and use of our property would ruin the landscaping we had planned. The entire conversation was difficult because he spoke over me the entire time and talked to me like a child. At the end of the confrontation, he said we were rude neighbors and stormed off. Since then, he parks further over, moves our landscaping rocks constantly, and aggressively moves his garbage cans through the gravel, leaving marks like he was zigzagging back and forth. This weekend I started taking photos as proof of his parking and the way he's ruining our gravel with his garbage cans. He came out and glared at me. I, very nicely, again, asked him to stop. He replied, "Why?" And when I said because it's my property and we've asked him not to, he replied, "Whatever," and walked away. Now we come to today. I'm done. I am so frustrated that this guy feels like he is entitled to unquestioned use of property that is not his. Update: it's a very happy update. I drafted the letter with some legal assistance. Prior to sending it, I wanted to ensure I had proper cameras in the event he decided to make things worse. When I installed the camera, the neighbor must have realized why it was installed because they stopped doing all the annoying stuff. Then, about a month later, they listed their house for sale. They've moved out and we don't have to deal with their entitled idiot attitude anymore. I appreciate all the assistance and support, as I was really unsure if I was going in the right direction. Edit: I want to clarify. I do not believe that the neighbor moved because of anything I did or asked him to stop doing. I think he had been planning to move for some time and was just an absolute prick of a person. They didn't move because of me, and even if they did, they sold the house for $200,000 more than they bought it 3 years ago. So he is not some victim. I do appreciate all the kind words. I am also bummed that so many people have shitty neighbors as well. Not an idiot. Isn't that an amazing feeling? We had a horrible neighbor when we moved into a place years ago. He threatened to shoot our dog, not because it was barking, but because we were playing darts with friends with our garage open and we were playing music. Not even loudly. At 7 p.m., he called the cops on us. They shrugged and said we weren't doing anything wrong. So then this guy threatens to shoot the dog. When he sold his place a couple of months later, I was so relieved. Now, you won't want to miss this next story. Am I an idiot for not wanting to give any money to my pregnant ex? My ex, female 25, and I, male 27, were together for about 6 months, but during that time we were free to see other people. Things weren't working out, so we broke up. Over a month after that, she finds out she's pregnant and tells me the baby is mine. But I already knew she was seeing other guys, so it was also possible the baby isn't. She got mad that I was having doubts, but I said if we got a paternity test and it showed I'm the dad, then yeah, I'll 100% be involved. My ex didn't want that and she'd rather wait until after the baby is born to get a test done, so I said that's fine, it's her choice. But I won't get myself involved unless I know the baby is mine. Like, I already know I could be set up for child support if I start helping out now and then later it's revealed I'm not the father. I live in the US and have heard this stuff happens a lot. I'd rather not even risk it, you know. She's about 8 months old now and I have started saving up money, reading up some books, making shopping cart lists of baby clothes and furniture to buy in case I am the father, so it's not like I'm not preparing for this at all. So right now money is tight with her since I know she's only working part-time. She doesn't have the money for a baby bassinet or clothes because she practically lives paycheck to paycheck. She started asking to let her borrow money for baby stuff, but I've told her no. As far as I know, she doesn't have any other family she's close to and friends are the same as her with money. But I already said I'll start giving her money and helping out once I know her son is mine. Otherwise I'd rather not get involved. I've even told her to reach out to the other guys who could also be the dads, but she said one is even more broke and the other she hasn't been able to contact. So for right now it seems like I'm the only one actually able to offer financial support. We have a couple mutual friends and I'm getting poop from them because they know I have the money to help out. She could be the mom of my kids, so the least I could do is provide. They say they would if they had the money. Since I do have the means and this baby could be mine, I should already be helping. They have a point. The baby could be mine and I'll be happy to help out ... once I know he is in fact mine. But everyone else is seeing it as I'm being too cold and inconsiderate. I don't think I am, but want to know what others believe. Am I an idiot? Hasn't been that long, but thought I should update since many of you wanted to know. Following what a few here suggested, I tried talking to my ex again about getting the prenatal paternity test done right now since she kept pressing me about giving her money. I said if her situation is that bad, then let's have this test done already, so if the baby is mine I can start helping now. Because if we waited until after birth, she was going to have to wait for my support until the results came in. Plus, if she still refused the paternity test, then it would be more waiting around to get a court-ordered test, meaning no help from me at all for a while, even after the baby is already here. So yes, she agreed to it in the end. He's not mine. I just got the results the day before yesterday. My ex didn't really have much to say. She only texted, "Fine then, I won't bother you anymore." I told her I was sorry and wished her luck. Also told her about what you guys commented about Facebook posts selling or giving away used baby stuff, plus the WIC program that could help her out since she's low income. But she didn't respond after that and haven't heard from her since, so I don't know if she'll look into those. Not gonna lie, I'm a little disappointed. I know I was having my doubts about this baby being mine and was keeping my distance. But like I said, I was mentally and physically preparing in case he was, so that I could be there as a father. Still feel that loss, but at least now I know for sure. I appreciate everyone who commented and thanks for the info and advice. Not an idiot. My cousin just found out the baby he thought was his daughter isn't his. She lied and the baby is over a year old now. They weren't together and the baby went back and forth between them each week until he received the paternity results. He gave her $2,000 a month. Everyone in our whole family is heartbroken because now she is keeping her from him since he discovered the truth. He's a mess. A lot less painful. Really smart of you to do this. It's crazy people do this. Not an idiot. I'm so glad you found out. I suspected she was dragging her feet because she also suspected. Keep the results handy, you never know. I understand your ambivalence because you were gearing up for it. She was counting on that, and hoping it wouldn't matter by the time the baby was born and you were attached. That's what makes everything about her wrong for you. Am I an idiot if I tell my daughter her grandma is ashamed of her? I'm here because I genuinely don't know where else to turn. When I was 21, I had a one-night stand that resulted in my wonderful daughter. Her father ghosted me the day after we hooked up, and I decided to raise her as a single mom the day I found out I was pregnant. Throughout my pregnancy, my best friend, we'll name him Sean, became my absolute rock. We grew closer as a result of it and was even there when I delivered my daughter. We came a couple 6 months into my pregnancy and he officially adopted my daughter 3 years after she was born. We've been together for 7 years, married for 1, and have recently found out we're expecting our first baby. However, this has caused some tension from his family. His family are black, and while most of them have been great, his mother did not support our relationship, especially his choice to adopt our daughter. She refuses to acknowledge my daughter and corrects her every time she calls her grandma. Since finding out we're pregnant, she has been going around telling everyone she is expecting her first grandchild and how we're going to be a real family. My husband just ignores her because this is just what she does. However, it all came to a head recently when she said she would happily babysit our new baby, but wouldn't want our daughter around. When I asked why, she started saying how embarrassing it is for her and her son to be seen with a white child that clearly isn't there and that she will never be part of their family. Since then she's been texting updates regarding her grandbaby. I refuse to speak to her, but my daughter keeps asking why she doesn't get to speak to her grandma. I feel so ashamed to tell her that her grandma doesn't like her because of her race. I just don't see why she can't be fully accepted and part of a family just because she's white. I want to tell her the truth and go to low contact with my mother-in-law, but my husband said I would be an idiot if I told my daughter what my mother-in-law has been saying. Would I be the idiot if I told my daughter her grandma is ashamed of her race? Edit. While this blew up, just thought I'd clarify a few things. My mother-in-law is of Caribbean descent, where nobody disrespects their elders. My husband has told me numerous times how she used to chase him round the house with a hairbrush if he raised his voice at her, so I suppose that's why he keeps saying to just ignore her. I know I probably would be an idiot, but I just don't know what to do. My daughter is such a people pleaser and she makes so much effort to try and get her grandma to like her. She keeps asking what she can do to make grandma like her more, and it just breaks my heart. Also, to that woman who had the nerve to comment about the number of baby daddies I have and how weird it looks having a white and mixed child. Screw you. Edit 2. So I showed your responses to my husband and we had a long talk about his family and our daughter. He agreed that the comments and her attitude have been out of order and he has quietly been talking to my father-in-law to get her to stop. However, every time his dad brings it up, she either ignores him or completely blows up. I put my foot down and said I refuse to subject our daughter to this any longer, especially as her behavior is getting worse and she's already favoring the baby who isn't even here yet. I told him that this is going to damage our daughter in the long term, and if he doesn't do something about it, I will not let her see either of the children. He got a bit huffy at the idea of his father not seeing them, but agreed to speak to her tonight. He's completely on my side, but I think he's a bit scared of the woman. I will update you with what happens. Update. So my husband called his mom and dad on FaceTime, while I stayed out of view to make sure he said exactly what needed to be said. He explained that her behavior to our daughter is unacceptable and that it's not fair she is subjecting her to this sort of treatment. He explained that if it was her biological grandson receiving this sort of treatment from my mom, she would be absolutely livid and be the first to call her a racist. What she was doing was no different. His father apologized and agreed with what he said. He tried to coax mother-in-law to apologize, but she huffed and said I have nothing to apologize for. That child is not ours and never will be. My husband and father-in-law both argued that she was being heartless, and my husband warned her if she continued to treat our daughter this way, she would not be allowed to see our baby. She flipped. She called me a lot of racist names I won't repeat on here. She also said she would see her grandbaby whether he liked it or not, that I was a bad influence, that I was manipulating him and turning her son against him. Eventually my father-in-law apologized and ended the call. We had a sit down with my daughter and explained that she couldn't see grandma because she was on timeout. My daughter asked if it was because she says mean things and we both said yes. She then asked when she comes out of timeout, can I see her again? And I said absolutely. Once she is out of timeout you can go and visit with your new brother or sister. She seemed satisfied with that as she then asked if she could go and play in the garden. My husband has since been texting our father-in-law, but she refuses to apologize. Until she does and takes steps to improve her behavior, she will not be allowed to visit. Thank you for all your advice on the matter. We both agreed with a lot of the comments that now was not the time to bring her race up to our daughter, as she doesn't see herself any different from her dad or his parents. She seems to be okay with it so far, although we are taking it day by day. Not an idiot, but please, take steps to protect yourself now. Make sure you have a drop cam on your door. Document the abuse. Make sure the hospital knows she isn't allowed in. I hate to scare you, but people like this can be scary. I am currently waiting to hear back from a lawyer because my parents, who I am no contact with, tried to lure my kids with a puppy. It may be felony stalking and I finally may be able to get some protection from the law. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Not an idiot. Great parenting job. I wish I had not subjected my own kids to my in-laws, as they are disgusting racists. They showed their true colors once too often and were not invited to my daughter's wedding because they didn't approve of his race and religion. Absolutely no regrets cutting them out of our lives. Do you think she was too nice to her MIL? Let me know in the comments. Now, am I an idiot for yelling at my ex's GF in front of our kids? I, female 38, have got 3 kids, 4, 6, 9, with my ex, 43 male, who cheated on me with his 24-yo, now GF. She moved in 2 weeks after my ex and I split 2 years ago. We immediately divorced, and I only have the kids a couple days every other week as I work 70H divided by W. I finance everything in regards to the kids, extracurricular, camps, clothing, etc. I can afford it easily, so I go shopping with them, get the emails about their sports, host their parties, etc. I am still very involved in my children's lives. My kids told me they don't like the new GF. They say GF is overbearing, controlling, tries to enforce affection, and mothers them. I told my ex to talk to her, but he dismissed it, so I told the kids they aren't obliged to listen to her beyond house rules. Last Thursday GF picked the kids up from my place. I say goodbye to my kids and go back inside. 5 or so minutes later I'm leaving for work, and I see GF's car standing still in my driveway. I walk over and knock on the window. Me, hey, is everything alright? Why aren't you leaving? My younger ones are in the back being quiet, but my 9-yo is staring daggers at GF, and there is obviously something going on between GF and 9-yo S from here on. GF, yes, everything is fine. I'm just making a point. S refuses to comply with my rule, so I'm not leaving till he does. Me, S, is that true? What are you refusing to do? S, she wants me to call her mum. I told her no because you are my mum. Me, taken aback. GF, I don't believe you get to decide what my children call you. They have told you multiple times they want to call you by your name, and you need to accept that. GF, well, I think it's important for them to have a mother's figure in their life and that they call their real family by their titles. Since you're so busy all the time, youngest ones have even been forgetting you. So I'm just trying to give them a healthy childhood by having them at least remember having a mum. So this is where am I the idiot? I lost it. I have rarely been so angry. I didn't yell, as I never do, but I did say some pretty nasty things. I told her that she should be grateful to even be a part of my children's life, that she will never replace me as their mother because she has yet to even get them to like her, that she has got absolutely zero parental authority over my children, and how dare she try to force my child to do something he's explicitly said he's uncomfortable with, to just accept her role as their father's new girlfriend and to take them to their dads. I got a phone call later from an ex raging at me for disrespecting his new GF, and my mom also says I could have handled it better. Am I the idiot here? Thank you so much for all your responses. I am blown away. I have decided to take the appropriate steps and have scheduled a meeting with my boss to discuss working fewer hours. I had never even thought about parental alienation, but I'll be damned before I let that happen. Edit 2. I've gotten a lot of comments and messages regarding custody, and why I don't have 50 over 50 or even full. It's because I work a lot. Less hours will still mean a min of 50, but I truly never thought about being alienated from my kids. Boss X has always been a good dad, never thought this would happen. Update, it's been quite a while. I wasn't planning on it, but many of you have personally messaged me asking for an update. Thank you for all the kindness and concern for my family. Early March I was phoned at work by my neighbor saying my 10-year-old son was at her place. He had biked in the dark to my house. He told me that he'd left because GF had punished him for not joining a family bath in a way no one should support. Of course I went home immediately. I told my boss that I was leaving for the night, and I wasn't sure if I would return the next day. After checking if my son was okay, we went to X's house. After arriving, GF immediately started raging at S, but I shut that down very quickly. I went inside the house to collect my children, who were awake because their GF was yelling very loudly. They cried and asked to come with me, which was absolutely horrible. To come to the house of your co-parent and to hear your children beg to leave. It took something from me. I put the children in the car, locked it, and went back inside to grab their essentials. This time, X followed me in and tried to excuse my GF. I told him that he would not be welcome anywhere near the children until they wanted him to, and I trusted him again. I also told him I would be suing for full custody and that my lawyer will contact him about buying out my part of the house. Nothing he said after that is worth repeating. I came back outside to find GF attacking my car trying to get the children. Things got very nasty and many things were said. She refrained me from reaching my car and the police had to be called. The officers allowed me to leave with my kids after a brief chat. I did not return to work until early April. Because of COVID-19, my children went to my parents in the country. We video chat daily. My parents say the children are flourishing, though still very shocked and traumatized by what happened. They are talking with a therapist individually. My children have also been inspected by a physician for physical trauma, of which there is no sign. Thank the stars. I will be taking my ex to court soon and will likely get full custody with paying alimony. The house will be put up for sale. X has formally been told that GF's presence will result in me fighting for no visitation. Lastly, I did not end up losing my job. I have decided to get a professional live-in nanny and perhaps au pair, and I'm looking into larger properties to accommodate everyone. The kids are very excited to come home to me in September. Thank you all very much. Not an idiot. Wow. That was insane. What a horrible father is to keep his GF over the best interest of his children. A real man would have let the door hit her on the way out. I'm so happy that you're fighting for them and they are flourishing. Best of luck to you and the babies in the future. Not an idiot. I'm so glad your kids are safe and you are all okay. You have a solid plan in place and your kids are well taken care of. As a child of divorced parents, I can tell you how much it will mean to your kids that you not only stuck up for them, you drew a line and saved them from a crazy situation. Now, for the next story. Am I an idiot for refusing to sell my rental properties at my fiance's request? 2 years ago I, male 36, proposed to my fiance, 30 female, and our wedding is going to be this coming summer. When we met we both owned properties. She owned a pretty typical luxury townhouse, and I owned 2 properties in the inner city. We both agreed that when it was time to cohabitate, we'd live in her condo. I own an old 2-up 2-down duplex in a neighborhood that butts right up against an old industrial area, which I was living in until we moved together. And on the next block I also own a 4,000 square foot concrete block industrial building. I got them as part of a screaming package deal about 12 years ago when you couldn't give property away in that neighborhood. I now rent the duplex to a couple of Hispanic families, and God I hope they never leave me. Best renters ever, and I rent half of the factory building to a guy who does HVAC and the other half to some microbrewery hipsters. The powers of gentrification have been at work in this hood for about half the time I've owned these places, and I'm making boku bucks on these rentals. I could lose my job tomorrow and not even blink. My fiancée does not see it this way. Ever since we've moved in together, she's been pestering me to sell the places. It's been ramping up the closer we get to the wedding. I keep telling her that as long as I own these places, it's a practically guaranteed third source of income and would be invaluable if either of us hit a rough patch job-wise. She doesn't see it that way though. All she sees is a potential big pile of liquid cash that can go towards wedding, honeymoon, and upgrades to the living situation after. We had the biggest blow-up yet about it last Saturday and I kind of lost it. I'm a saver and she's a spender, and I said that to her in far less pleasant terms, and also mentioned the amount of credit card debt she has, and since then things have been pretty frosty. Am I an idiot for refusing to sell my second income? Update. So, the conversation didn't happen until the weekend of the 14th of March. Life got in the way. It started fine, but quickly went south and ended in a big fight that degenerated into a lot of petty shit-slinging by the end. She accused me of not trusting her, fair, and I pointed out that her habits make it basically impossible to trust her with money anyway. Probably not my proudest moment, but I did again make it clear in no uncertain terms that the properties are staying in the LLC and I won't sell them, and that the financial decisions regarding them would be mine alone. I may have also had a few choice words about the princess for a day wedding she wanted. After a couple of weeks of avoiding each other and not talking, and me sleeping in the basement of the townhouse, I said I wanted to hit the pause button and leave for a while. She was upset but didn't say much. I loaded up my things and went to my parents' house and told them what happened. They told me I could stay as long as I needed. Somewhere near the end of April, I got a call from her dad out of the blue. What the hell, demanding to know what was going on and why I'd broken things off. I tried to explain what had been going on, but he was the angry dad of an upset young woman, and I don't think much got through. That call ended with him calling me a scumbag and hanging up on me. I've only had a few properly long-term relationships end in my lifetime, but that's the first time I've had an angry father yell at me about one. There's been no contact since. I'm sad that just over 4 years of my life with someone went up in smoke like this, but that's the way she goes, I guess. My parents didn't seem very surprised when I showed up, so maybe I really was the last one to know what was going on, like so many Redditors were pointing out. For some good news, and also the thing that reminded me to update my Reddit post, is that yesterday I bought another house, one for me to live in. A tiny little brick post-war brick ranch in an old subdivision about 20 minutes from my rentals. It needs work, but I'm looking forward to having a project to take my mind off things. It's going to be strange living on my own again, but I think I'll manage. Not an idiot. Jesus, if my new partner and spouse-to-be had basically a third income, I would be high-fiving every fucker I met about how lucky we were. Damn dude, good job getting out of that one. It must be really hard seeing 4 years disappear, but sometimes we don't see the real person until it is too late. The dad was angry with you because you were the solution to his problems, meaning you would financially support her and take her off his hands. And now who knows how long it will take to find another Mr. Moneybags to bail her out.